single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hey there, Cerise here. Guys, I have a story for you. Oof. This one has a good ending for two out of the three people that were involved. But at least 2 out of 3 is better than none at all. Or better than one. Okay, so you may hear some dinging in the background because it is a busy time right now. And also you may hear some motorbikes in the background. It, again, is a busy time right now. But I'm going to do my best to deliver this story and give you guys all the details that I got. Okay, background. I'm going to make up fake names for the ladies, but not for the man. Okay, so I'm not giving his last name, so that's totally fine. I'm only saying his name is Robert from Canada, or Bob. Okay, so now let me give you the backdrop. I was at a colmado about 6 months ago, and there was a woman that came over, and she had a little girl with her. The woman was, she gorgeous, like most Dominican women, and she had her baby, and her baby was so intelligent, the little girl. So I start talking away, and, I asked the little girl if she wants a little treat or something, and the little girl and I speak about the same amount of Spanish, put it that way. So I'm connecting with this woman and her baby, and, and so the woman looked at me and she's like, "You're Cerise." And I said, "Yes, my name is Cerise." And she said, and she spoke very good English, a Dominican woman. And she said, "I watch your videos on YouTube." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And then she said, "I would like to do a video with you. I would like to do a video on your channel." I said, "Okay, absolutely. What is your video about? What do you want your video to be?" She said, "I want to warn the women from around the world." So now, of course, I have to be careful because I don't want women coming on my channel yelling at men and, beating their chests and saying that, whatever, because it's not really my style. And there are a lot of things that happen down here that's none of my business. Not only is it not my style, it's none of my business, right? So I said to her, "Well, why don't you give me a shout sometime on WhatsApp or email me your story, and I'll look over it, and then we can talk about a video." She said, "All right, sounds good." And then she said, "But I'm not ready right now anyway." And I said, "Okay, well, you take your time and we'll take it slow." She said, "All right." So a little while later, she contacted me via email, but with a very, very evasive email, just like a paragraph or two, kind of like a paragraph and a half of what she went through. Now, I said to her, it was very interesting what she said in just Cole's notes and just paraphrasing what her experience was. I was like, holy smoly macaroni. And she was very good at how she paraphrased it. And so I got back to her and I said, "This is a good story. This is something that I would love to do a video on. If you are available and you're up for your original offer of doing a video, we could get together and do your video." And then she got back to me, and once again, she said, "I'm not ready." And I said, "Okay, whenever you're ready." And then I told her, when she is ready, please contact me through WhatsApp, and she can leave me a voice note with the whole entire story if she likes, whenever she's ready, because sometimes we're ready to express. And at the same time, I knew at that moment she didn't have any worries about me saying her name on the internet. Not at all. If she wanted me to talk about her story, I will definitely do that. But if it is her desire for me to keep her secret, then number one, I will do that as well. But she wanted her story to be out there. She wanted to tell the world. She wanted to share what her pain was. And you know what? I thought, there's pleasure here on the island, and there's also pain. And so she's a Dominican woman, and she wanted to express something that she encountered. So now, fast forward to just a short while ago, she left me, before quarantine, she left me a voice note of her experience on WhatsApp. Now, then she deleted the message, completely deleted the message after she left me the voice note. And then she left me another voice note telling me that she deleted the message. And then I got back to her and I said, like through voice note, I didn't want to call her right away and shock her or anything. So I called her and I said, listen, I messaged her and I said, listen, if you need someone to talk to right now, give me a shout. I don't need to do a video with you. If you just need someone to talk to, I'm here for you as well, free of charge. Don't worry, on the house, not as a soul coach and, client, but as somebody who may just need someone to talk to right now. And then she got back to me and she said, you know what, Cerise, through voice note, she said, you know what, Cerise, please call me. So I called her up. And when I called her, she said, I want to tell you the whole story. I want to tell you everything, but not on voice note, because she didn't want her voice out there recorded, right? Understandably so. So I said, sure, no problem. And she said, can you just take notes as I talk? And I said, absolutely. She said, you can say his name because it's a common name and where he's from is very common too. Oh, here I go. Let me turn this on airplane mode. So then I always record when it's not on airplane mode. I always have to remember, especially these days when it's getting busy with everyone in lockdown. So back to the story. And she said, Cerise, I just want to tell you my story if you can take notes. I said, absolutely. What you want is what I'll do. Your story is interesting and I would love to tell the world. And she said, yeah, So then this is the background now. She was very young. She still is young. She met this guy about 2 years ago, okay? And I don't want to say the exact date. I know the exact timing, but I don't want to say the exact timing. So about 2 years ago. And she was working in a bar on Pedro Clasante in Sosua. And she was a person who was a very friendly bartender and everyone loved her. Beautiful, beautiful. He came along. Nice looking man from Canada. Now, he made some money in the stock market, made some money in investments on the side and businesses and stuff of that nature and flipping homes. And so he decided he was going to retire. He was kind of tired for a little while. So he had a few things going on in Canada, businesses that were just running themselves. Like he also got into vending machines, where people put coins in all the time. You don't really need someone there. You just get someone to collect the money every month or every week or whatever, right? So he came here to spend a few of his years, so to speak. So when he met her, he was just beside himself. He was like, wow, what a beautiful woman. And she looked at him. She was also very attracted to him. Now, she met a lot of foreigners every day and never had any children on her own. She was taking care of her mom. Her mom lived in the Campo in Bella Vista, and her mom lives in Bella Vista and is a little bit older. Her mother had her when her mother was much older. Her mother took care of her mother. Okay, so the mother... So let's call the woman Angelica. Angelica's mother, who lives in the Campo, her mother was sick when she was growing up. So Angelica's grandmother was sick when Angelica's mother was growing up. So Angelica's mother had to take care of the grandmother. So she never really was out on the streets meeting boys or anything like that. She just worked to feed her mom when she could. And then eventually when she was a little older, she did have a child, and that was Angelica. But then she got diabetes and she got very ill. And so Angelica, in the same fashion, started now to take care of her mother. So Angelica was beautiful enough to be a lady of the night and everything, but she didn't want to do that because she didn't want to upset her mother. And people talk. Bella Vista is only right here. It's the countryside. Sosua is like the beach town. And Angelica would just come every day on motoconcho to work. She worked 7 days a week, 7 days a week, and she got $10 a day. And with tips, she might get a little bit more. So, sorry, she was averaging $10 a day, but her waitressing fee, like her bartending fee, was $4 a day. But she might get a little bit more than, not $4 a day, sorry, 400 pesos a day. 400 pesos a day, which is $8 a day. $8 a day. That's what she was making. Lower than the average person that makes about 10 or a little bit more a day, but she was making pretty good dollars as well and taking care of her mom and everything. So with tips, sometimes she'd make a little bit more every night and all that stuff, right? I'm not going to say where she worked. So Angelica, finally, she met this guy. And she's like, wow, he looks good. She never went home with a guy before that, only him. She was always nervous. She would never go home with strangers or anything like that because she was always afraid. She didn't have a lot of sexual experience, and she always felt like there was a rumor that, Dominican women are very sexual and stuff, and she never found herself to be sexual. So she would never go home with men because she'd always feel a little different. Well, that night she didn't care. That night she felt very intrigued. And she thought she'll go home with them and just fake the funk, just try to be sexual, So she got home with him, and it wasn't like that. It was very natural. She said it was very natural. They just made love, and she never left. And he told her he didn't want her to leave. He told her he wanted her to stay. She had no children. She had no responsibilities, not a lot of brothers or sisters. She had her mom. So he told her he would pay her $10 a day to stay home with him. And not only that, he would take care of all of her resources, like everything she needed for a resource. So food, roof over her head. And she could stay at his villa. He owned his own villa in Sosua in El Bate. And, beautiful pool, everything. And the only deal was that she couldn't bring her mother to his house. And she could only go visit her mom once a week on weekends. So she agreed to it. And she said to him, okay, well, the deal is, she would go home every night to check on her mom after work, because taking a motoconcho from El Bate to Bella Vista is not a big deal in the nighttime when you're going home to work from the bar and stuff. It's probably about 15 minutes. So maybe 17 minutes, right? If that. So even though you're going to more of the countryside, it's really not that far away. You're not talking about Santo Domingo, where it's the main city, right? Capital city. This is a beach town where I'm talking about Sosua. So now she said to him, the deal is he has to provide someone to clean the house for her mother. So like a family member to go in there and help the mom with the cooking and the cleaning. And he agreed to it. So every day he had a motoconcho take either food that Angelica would cook from home, or he would take her food from the street, or he would take her food that the cousin, they hired a cousin to go to the house, that the cousin would cook for her. So on the days that the cousin wasn't there, the motoconcho would go and show up with food that Angelica cooked, like I said, or food from a colmado, like a cafeteria here. And then on the days that the cousin was there to cook and everything like that, they would take raw food so the cousin could cook it, right? And the cousin was there every single day, no matter what, because Bob, we'll just call him Bob for now, he made sure that the mother was well taken care of, because if the mother is well taken care of, then his woman is going to take care of him like a king. And it didn't cost very much for him to make sure that everyone was well taken care of. So he was content. It was a win-win situation all around. So now when you get to the two of them, Bob and Angelica, they were going hard. He loved her. He was taking her everywhere, all around the island. They were going from Punta Cana, South Coast, back up to the north. They were going to different places that they were invited to, some really funky, cool restaurants. And they were eating like food that you wouldn't even think would be here in the Dominican Republic, or gourmet restaurants that are here that are so nestled into wonderful little mountainsides that you'd be surprised are here, because you would be surprised that they are anywhere around the world. They're so gorgeous. It's like an oyster, like a pearl inside of a shell, these restaurants. And he was taking her to all of these places, and she was so excited, so happy. She felt really, really blessed, and she was never going to cheat on him or do anything wrong. And she didn't, until one night he got really drunk, very, very drunk. And he forgot to use a condom, if you know what I mean. So he remembered the next morning, and the next morning he said to her, go to the pharmacy and get a pill, a tablet, to make sure that everything's okay. He told her very clearly he does not want any children at all. And he did not want any mothers, parents around him, nobody, just her. He just wanted to be treated like a king and be her only responsibility. And when, he felt that there's a possibility she could be pregnant, he panicked and he told her directly, go get the pill. Now, she didn't know what the pill was. She never heard about the pill. She told me, and I'm not quite sure because I haven't had the time to do the research myself, but I have heard it many times here, that the abortion in the Dominican Republic is illegal or not openly available. And so, she said that she didn't really understand what the pill was. And so she went to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy said to her, no, we don't have a pill here like that. So she said she stopped at that pharmacy. She didn't bother going to another pharmacy or another pharmacy. She just thought, this is crazy. He's Canadian, whatever pill he's talking about to take away a baby, whatever. And she also thought on her other hand that there's no way she could be pregnant with just one night of sex with no condom, or with him, ejaculating inside. And her, she didn't think for the life of her that she would be pregnant, right? So, yes, she was pregnant. She had a baby girl. Now, he knew during her pregnancy that there were going to be some changes. During her pregnancy, he was turned off. He couldn't even sleep with her. He was just like, no, it's not what he signed up for. He was coming to the Dominican Republic for a playground for the rest of his life and to have a beautiful woman to grow old with. However, he wasn't looking for her to be pregnant at all. And he wasn't looking for her to go through mood swings or start to put a child before him. He was a very selfish man, but is selfishness bad? He's a man who made a lot of money, who had a good life, and all he really wanted to do was live healthy, eat healthy, have a wife, and no children. And so now, instead of him being responsible, okay, he can't blame her. He was the one that released. He is the only one now that can fix things. So she ended up telling him the truth when her belly started to grow, and when she realized she was pregnant. She told him straight up that she's pregnant. And he was like, well, actually, he figured it out before her. He said to her one day, are you pregnant? Because she was vomiting in the morning and she didn't know what the signs would be. And he said to her, are you pregnant? And she was like, no. And he was like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And she started to push food away, and he noticed that. And she started to want different cravings, and he noticed that. So he got her a pregnancy test at the dollar store across from Superpola. You know Superpola in Sosua? The grocery store across the street is a dollar store, and they sell pregnancy tests. So he went in there and he got her a pregnancy test, and he made sure that, she wasn't pregnant, but she was. And that's when he got completely turned off immediately. He didn't leave her. He didn't leave her high and dry at first, but he just kind of let things slide. And then he just slowly got turned off once her belly started to grow more, and once she started to go through her hormones and everything. And he couldn't even be around her when she was eating ice cream. She told me, she said, Cerise, you know what? Cravings are real. And I said, yes, I know. I had 2 children of my own. She's like, I couldn't stop eating ice cubes, ice shavings, and ice cream. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And we laughed together and everything. And she really is a sweet soul. And she said, he would get home and it would be so hot outside, and she would be sitting outside with her aunt or her uncle or her cousin or her brother or whatever outside of the store, the colmado, and he would like, she lived across the street from it. And he would get home and see her like so swollen, so big, and wouldn't even hold her hand and help her across the street. And he'd be like, ven aquí, come here. And that was it. He'd go in the casa, in the house, and she'd have to follow behind him. Someone would have to help her home. Like he just didn't care. And she knew that. After the baby was born, like he didn't even go to the hospital with her. He sent her in his friend's car. That was it. His friend took her. And, she knew at that point that he was disgusted and he did not want to have a child. But she prayed at that point that he would have a change of heart once the baby was home. So she really hoped within herself that he was a person that could turn that cold heart into something compassionate. She went to the hospital, had the baby, got back home. He paid for everything. It's not that he didn't pay for anything. He made sure he paid for everything. She got back home and he looked at the baby just to see if it looked like him, to make sure she didn't cheat. And then he said to her, I'll see as the baby grows if it's mine. And then he left the room. He didn't ever hold the baby, ever, ever, ever. She said not one time did he hold that baby in his arms. Even when the baby cried, he would say, go get your child. He acted like it wasn't even his blood. He was so against having a child and so annoyed that she didn't follow up in telling him at the time that she couldn't find the pill. He said to her, why didn't you come home and say to me you couldn't find the pill when you were looking for it? I would have drove you all around this island to make sure you got one. And she was like, I didn't even think it existed. I didn't even know. And he's like, so now because you didn't communicate with me, you have all these years of life that you have to take care of. And he would often say to her, he's not going to help her. He's not going to help her. So he started to go out. When the baby would cry, he started to go out at night and during the day as well to be away from the baby. The older the baby got, when it started to get a few months old, 5 months old and everything, the baby started to reach out for him. And the baby started to say, Dada, Dada. And he said to Angelica, tell that child not to call me Dada. I didn't move here for that. I didn't come here to be a dad. And Angelica said, well, you are the father. Like, the kid knows it. Like, our daughter knows it. And he was like, no, he didn't even ask if it was a boy or a girl. Put it that way. So he called the kid he all the time. Bob called the kid he all the time. Or it. Or the child. So with that being said, Angelica knew he was just not interested in the baby. So she knew to keep the baby quiet as much as possible, away from him when he was in the house, because she didn't want him leaving all the time. But it was impossible for her to keep the baby quiet at the pool. It was impossible for her to keep the baby quiet in the kitchen when the baby's hungry. Of course, at the pool, the baby's going to giggle and laugh. Babies are happy. And when they're hungry in the kitchen, they're going to cry. It was a big villa, a gorgeous villa, but the baby's voice is going to echo. And when you are not into having children around you, you're just not into it. And you can't force somebody that is into not having children around them. It's unfortunate that that someone doesn't love their child. That's unfortunate. But at the same time, reality stands. And reality stands that he just wasn't invested in the idea of having a family. And so Angelica actually understood that, because she was like, yeah, it was a surprise for her too. But she still loved her child. And there were times where, he would go out to the bars with his friends afterwards. And he never did this prior. But then once the baby was there, he was going out all the time with his friends, drinking days and nights. And then she even would go to her mom's house for a couple of days and he wouldn't even ask her where she was. And at that point, she knew he stopped caring. So there was nothing she could do, because he was still paying for the mother and still paying for her. And, it was a great opportunity for her to be able to still survive and each day and not have to worry about her mom or her daughter, then she ended up just, sitting down and talking to him and saying to him, what does he want? And he told her straight up. He said he didn't ever want a child. He only wanted her. He loved her for the rest of his life, and he only wanted her to serve him. Everything is different, and she is different. She's not the same body. She's not the same woman. She's now different. And he said he can't look at her as the same woman. And she asked him, will you try? As the child gets older, everything gets better. And he said to her that he would try. So he did try for a short while. But then every day he got annoyed with the baby. One day he went out. One night he went out. And he never went back home. She told me that he went out one night, got back home 5 o'clock in the morning, and told her that he had a business meeting in Canada and that he had to leave that day. She said to him, where were you all night? And he said he met people in the bar, the casino, and everybody met up, and, he has a great opportunity that he can invest in. She was on board with it. Angelica was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. This is so fantastic. Okay, absolutely good. And he packed up and he told her he'd be gone for 1 week. He went to Santiago with a woman that he met that night at the casino. A woman of the night, a lady of the night. But he loved her. And he spoke to her all night long. They didn't talk about prices for her services. They spoke about different businesses. He asked her what she wants to do with her future. He asked her about her ideas, and she told him straight off the bat all her ideas that she wants to do with her future. What she wants to do, she told him she wanted to open up a beautiful woman's fashion store where they sell eyelashes. They put eyelashes on in the back. They do hair, and they also play beautiful music, but they also import clothes from America and Europe. And she said she has the hookups with everything because she's a lady of the night. She knows a lot of men who will help her. They won't pay for the stuff, but a lot of the men she's met have connections as well in the United States and around the world. And so this Canadian man said, I like this woman, because you have to remember this man already was a man of business prior. So he ended up falling in love with her on the spot, and he went to Santiago with her for a whole entire week. At the end of the week, he contacted Angelica. We'll call the second girl Rafaela. Okay. And so he contacted Angelica, and he told Angelica that he was going to be staying another week in Canada. Remember, he told her he was in Canada. So he said he was going to be staying another week. And she was like, oh, okay. All right. Things are going good. That's wonderful. And of course, she's thinking about her bottom line in the future, her daughter's bottom line in the future, and she's being the supportive wife. She has no reason to think that he's lying. Now, he turns around after another week and he tells her he's going to be about another 2 weeks. Again, she says to him, oh my gosh, no worries at all. But, can you call me at least a couple of times during the week to say hello and also to say goodnight to me? I miss you. And he said he will try. Now, there's no time difference between Toronto, Canada, where he's from, and also the Dominican Republic, unless you're going from October or November, like when when fall comes in. I'm pretty sure it's November or the end of October. That's right, end of October. And going into March, right? There's 6 months out of the year for daylight savings time that is different. But even then, it's only an hour difference. So, and then it gets back on track again, and then it's the same time from like March until October, November. So, yeah, it is obvious that he was just playing a game, but she didn't catch on to it. She was like, he's not calling at all, but he is at least trying to secure a future for the family. And then after the 3 weeks, he contacted her and he said to her that he is going to have to go back home to Sosua, collect all his stuff, go back to Canada, and send for her. She said, what about the villa? What about her mother, And he said, don't worry about your mom. Don't worry about the villa. Everything will be okay. She said, okay, no worries. He went back. He arrived. He didn't kiss her. He still didn't pick up his child. And then he went and packed up all his stuff, everything. He packed up everything. Didn't even leave a toothbrush. Just cleaned everything that was his out of the place. And then he went back to Santiago. But get this, before he did, she said to him, I want to go to the airport with you. I don't know when I'm going to see you again, because it's going to be a process for him to send for her, right? And she felt like he wasn't even kissing her, hugging her, giving her any type of enduring promise. And she felt a little scared. So she said to him, I want to go to the airport. Can we say goodbye? And he said, okay. Now, he had a friend with him. The friend was supposedly also supposed to be flying over to Toronto, going back home. But what happened was she goes to the airport with him, bids him farewell, and he puts her back in a cab and sends her away and says, okay, I'm going to go upstairs and go on my plane now, sweetheart. I love you. Goodbye. Doesn't give her a kiss, just says goodbye like he doesn't even care. Like, didn't he really even say I love you? Like, he just said, okay, bye-bye. I'll call you when I get to Toronto. And she's like, okay, still feeling distant, still feeling like something's not right, and then he sends her away in a taxi, and then him and his friend get into the next taxi, and they take it to Santiago. Now, the friend wasn't living here. The friend was also leaving Sosua at the same time because the friend had someone in Santiago too. So the guy goes to Santiago and he stays there. Bob is now in Santiago. He does not contact Angelica again. 2 weeks pass. Angelica is like, Now, he did leave Angelica some money. And 2 weeks after, he did send her some money. Someone sent her money. And she doesn't know where it came from, but someone showed up and gave her money. So now she is thinking 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, she's thinking pretty soon she won't be able to pay all of the bills on the house, like the electricity, and that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted her to just be on her own and have to pay everything on her own. He didn't believe in her that she could do it on her own. But it was very difficult because she had a small baby. How was she supposed to go back to work? Her mom lived in the country, and she was confused as to what she should do because she knew that her, boyfriend didn't really... Oh, wait, I am missing a very important part. Let's back up. I shouldn't say boyfriend. Her fiancé. He was engaged to her. When they first started, before she got pregnant, he was in awe with everything about her. And he engaged her. He asked to marry her. He put a ring on her finger, a real diamond, and it was big. And it was a diamond that he told her he carried around for a very long portion of his life. And he knew that he would make a ring one day with the woman that he would love forever. And he sat down with her and they made a ring together. I can't believe I was forgetting this part because this is the clincher of the story. So he said to her, let's sit down and custom create a beautiful ring for you. And they did put a beautiful ring together with his diamond and her ideas and his ideas, and it was custom made. So now he's leaving his fiance, and she's thinking, oh my gosh, my fiance is gone. She doesn't know what to do at the point of, should she leave or should she stay? And so finally she realized she had to leave, at least, or move her mother into the villa. Now, if she moved her mother into the villa, she wouldn't need motor concho every day to go to work because the bar was accepting her back again. And if she moved to the campo, then, her mom would be there. They wouldn't have to pay as many bills for electricity and all that. And she also wouldn't be upsetting her fiance because her fiance didn't want the mother there. She already deceived him by having a baby, So now she's like, she doesn't want to deceive him. And what happens if he comes home and the mother's there, So she said, what does she do? So she decided to move her mother in because she didn't want to pay too many expenses. And she knew her mother would be more comfortable in the villa by the pool with her daughter. And she didn't want to move her daughter all the way to the countryside either. And she also didn't want to be so far away. She wanted at lunchtime to go home if there was an emergency, So she went back to her job at the bar. She had no choice. He didn't think that she was going to be that self-sufficient or that smart. But she's a Dominican woman, and Dominican women are very savvy. They're very smart. They are brilliant. They know. So what happened was he didn't contact her, but she needed something for the baby. So she contacted, well, not the baby now, right? The baby's a little older. So she contacted the best friend who she thought was his brother, because when she met this guy that she's contacting, they said they were brothers, Bob and him. Let's say his name was Carl. So Carl is from the States, not from Canada. But she didn't think anything of it because she doesn't know that, okay, whatever. But originally, Carl is from Scotland. And originally, Bob's mother and father are from England. So she doesn't know anything different. She's like, okay, well, they're brothers. One lives in America, one lives in Canada. Easy peasy. So she contacts Carl and she says to Carl, have you heard from Bob? Carl says, oh my gosh, you didn't hear? She said, what? What? He said, well, Bob's dead. He died of a heart attack. She didn't even comprehend what he was saying at first. She said, what? Heart attack? She thought maybe her English was eluding her and she just didn't understand it. So she knew heart and attack was not good. So she said it again. Is he dead? And Carl said, yes, he's dead. He died. How come no one told you? And then she told him she doesn't know his family and she never met his family. Carl said he was so sorry to hear that she didn't know and that he was the one to break the news to her and how sorrowful he was. But then he said, okay, I gotta go now. You take care. Bye-bye. And she said to me that the way he was getting off the phone was a little strange. It's like someone who just did a job. Someone that was like, okay, I did my job now. Well, job well done. Okay, bye-bye. Like it was a sales pitch. And she just couldn't get that out of her mind. And even though he told her her boyfriend was, her fiance, rather, was dead, she still couldn't believe it within herself. She was like, what? That's unbelievable. So she went to work and she talked to the people about it at work. And everyone was just like, wow, holy, no one said anything, Usually Dominicans are very honest when it comes to any gossip that they heard or anything. They'll say, hey, I heard that this went on and that went on, but nothing. So she just thought, wow, and she dealt with his death. A little while later, she had to go to Santiago for reasons for her daughter. The daughter needed some type of a checkup on something, and the specialist was in Santiago. So Santiago was 2 hours away. So she got on the bus with her daughter, and because she didn't want to miss the 1 o'clock appointment, she took a very early morning bus. And she got on the bus with her daughter. Now she arrived in Santiago at 10 o'clock in the morning, like a few hours before her 1 o'clock appointment. So she thought, what is she going to do with all those hours? She didn't have a lot of money in her pocket to go sit down and get a coffee or a drink or food for her and the baby. She did have snacks for her baby and food for her just in case, but that was packed in a lunch bag. And she thought, you know what? Why doesn't she browse some stores? 10 o'clock in the morning, the stores are open, right? Because she took the 8 o'clock bus from here, from Sosua. Took her 2 hours to get to Santiago. And again, what was she going to do? So she went into one store, and she, it was really expensive, and it wasn't really what she was looking for. It was more for older women. Then she looked at another store, and there were a lot of beautiful outfits that she sees her co-workers wear. And she always wanted to wear that type of clothing, but she wasn't that type of woman. Oh, don't get me wrong. She is like the beautiful, gorgeous girl next door. Not just the girl next door, but the gorgeous girl next door with the long eyelashes, natural, and the beautiful Barbie doll body, natural, and the face and the hair, and just gorgeous Dominican woman. And, no makeup. With no makeup on, she looks like a supermodel. And, so she doesn't have to dress up in certain ways, but she did want to start dressing differently and to accentuate herself a little bit more. So she saw one store where there was a lot of beautiful clothing. Now, if you have been following this storyline, you know where I'm going with this right now. So she goes into the store. Oh, it just slapped my leg. Mosquito. There's not a lot of mosquitoes here for those of you thinking about coming down and visiting. Sorry for digressing like that and taking such a huge little turn or a huge big turn. It's just that I don't want a lot of you guys thinking, oh my gosh, mosquito was on her. She just slapped it away. Because I was really bug crazy before I came here, and I don't get a lot of mosquito bites. I don't anyway now. And I was able to live here without having that as a problem at all. So it's just really raining a lot here lately. Okay, back to my story. So she goes into that one store where she's like, oh my gosh, not shy to go in it because it's in Santiago. It's a big store. Nobody knows her there. She's a little shy to go into the stores in Sosua that sell the sexy clothing and put it on, because she's just a little shy. She's more reserved. But there she was thinking, gosh, she has a few hours to waste, a few hours to spend and share with Santiago. Why not try on a few things? Her daughter was sleeping in the stroller, so she thought, okay, she got this. She went into the store. The woman in front of her that was at the cash register was your basic Barbie doll again, but with makeup on and, a lot of long nails and the extra long eyelashes and the tight clothes on and smelling good, And she looked at her like, oh. Oh, hold on one second. Someone's at my door. Hola. Oh, hey, Gustavo. ¿Qué hora es? ¿4? Ok, yo voy a esa cafetería en 10 minutos. Posible 15. ¿Ah? Sí, 5. Es no 5, es no a las 5 ahora. No, sí. ¿Qué hora es? Las 4. Sí, ok. Yo voy en posible 15 minutos. Ok. Noche bien. Sorry about that, guys. It is quarantine right now, and so at 5 o'clock, everything's closing down, and I told my buddy Gustavo that I would buy him a meal to eat at Elsa's cafeteria. So he's coming to get me so I can go over there and pay for it, but we're all keeping social distancing in mind. Back to my story. Oh my gosh. Now I kind of forget where I was, but that's okay. I'll get back to it. So she says, oh, I remember. So she says to this beautiful woman, hey, do I know you from somewhere? She had that feeling inside of her. You know, Angelica had that feeling inside of her. You know that feeling when you look at someone and you think, oh my gosh, I know this person from somewhere. Or I have to tell this person something. Or I have something to learn from this person. Like you just feel a connection that you cannot describe, but it is something that is, you know, like kind of gnaws at you for a second. And that's what Angelica felt. Angelica was like, I know this woman from somewhere. So she said to the woman, do I know you? And the woman's like, no, where do you live? And then Angelica said, she lives in Sosua. And Rafaela said, no, Rafaela told her that she was in Sosua a few times, but she's not from Sosua. And maybe she saw her in Sosua. And Rafaela asked, did she work in that bar where she worked prior and where she was working again? And Rafaela said, no, she knows of the bar, but she never went in there before. And they started to converse back and forth where they could have known each other from, but nothing materialized. And so Angelica was like, I know this woman. And she couldn't place it. So then Angelica said, you know, well, show me what you have in the store. So then the woman said, sure. And they were like hitting it off as good friends. And so the woman pointed to a t-shirt that Angelica might like. And Angelica loved it. So the woman took the t-shirt down. And as she stroked the front of the t-shirt with all the sequences and the beautiful artwork on the front of the t-shirt, Angelica noticed a ring on the woman's left hand on the finger on the left-hand side, on the hand on the left-hand side, right? This is the point. I'm stuttering at this point because I'm like, yo, when I heard this story and at that point, I just got goosebumps. She said, Cerise, when I noticed her hand, it was my ring. She had my ring on, Cerise. That's what the woman said to me. That's what Angelica said to me. And I was like, oh, how do you know? And she said, because I designed it. I know it. I custom created it with Bob. It is my design, my grandfather's design that he always wanted to make for my grandmother is what I designed that as. So apparently her grandfather always wanted to make a ring for her grandmother. And he could never afford it, and he died. But he left the design, and that's what she created. And she looked at that design all the time. And so when Bob told her that he wanted to design a ring, she was like, oh my gosh, this is fate. So that was her design. And so she said to me, that's her ring. So she said to Rafaela, that's a beautiful ring. Where did you get that? Rafaela said, her fiance. And Angelica said, is your fiance Canadian? And Rafaela said, yes. How do you know? Is this a Canadian style ring? And Rafaela said, no. Sorry. Angelica said, no, that's my ring. I created that ring. Is your fiance's name Bob? And Rafaela said, no, my fiance's name is Robert. Now, those of us who are around the world, we understand that Robert is long form, Bob is usually short form. Not always. Some people are called Bob at birth, but regularly some people who are named Robert, we call them Robbie or we call them Bob or Bobby. It's just something that's common. But they didn't know that, these two ladies. And so then Rafaela said, I don't think we have the same guy you're talking about. And then Angelica said, no. Well, that's your engagement ring. Do you have a picture of your fiance? Because she just couldn't let it go, that there's something there. Rafaela said, yes, absolutely. We just got engaged. Let me show you the photos. They're all over Facebook. So she showed her a Facebook photo. And the Facebook photo was, of course, Rafaela and also Robert. So right away, Angelica couldn't even hold back her anxiety. She pulled open her cell phone and she started to zoom through her photos. She found Bob and she showed it immediately to Rafaela and she said, look, this is my fiance. That is my ring. And Rafaela looked at her and said, what? And then Angelica went one step further and said, "This is his daughter. Look at her." And the daughter looked just like him. And Rafaela couldn't deny it. And Rafaela said, "But he told me he had no children." And she was so confused and she didn't know what to do. And usually he would go to the store because it was her store. And he would go, I have more about that. He would go to the store every day at 12 o'clock for lunch and bring her lunch. It's a big thing in the Dominican Republic. Lunch is a very important time. So she messaged him and she said, "Can you come now?" And he showed up. And when he showed up, he got into the store and he caught eyes with Angelica. He caught eyes with Angelica. Didn't say a thing, just caught eyes with her and kept it going, kept it moving and walked right towards Rafaela, gave Rafaela a hug and a kiss and said, "Hey, baby, what's up? Why did you want me to come?" Rafaela said, "Who is this woman?" And he looked at Angelica and he said, "I don't know her." Angelica didn't say anything. Rafaela said, "Yes, you do." And then he's like, "No, am I supposed to know her?" And Rafaela said, "That is tu ex-esposa. That is your ex-wife." And Angelica, sorry, I keep going back between her name. Angelica said, "No, that is not my husband. We were never married, but I was engaged to him. That is my ring." Bob turned around and looked at Angelica and said, "Are you crazy? I don't even know who you are. You're crazy." Angelica pulled open her phone and showed him the picture of her and him together. And he looked at her and he said, right quickly, "That's not me." Just like that. He said, "That's not me. That's not me. I don't know. That's not me." And then, of course, he looked at his girlfriend, at his new fiance, at Rafaela, and he's like, "Rafaela, this is a game. You know, people do this serious stuff and they play games. I don't know what's going on right now, but this is not real." Then Angelica pulled open the next photo on her gallery in her cell phone, and she said, "Do you know this man right here?" It was his best friend, the guy that said that he was dead. And she looked at Rafaela and she said, "This guy right here said he was dead." Rafaela looked at her and said, "That's his best friend in America." And Rafaela just looked at Bob or Robert and said, "You know what? You are so stupid to think that you have a stupid woman. I am a Dominican woman. I am not stupid. I am smart. Please leave this store now. Leave my store." He looked at her and he said, "This is our store. This is my store. What are you talking about? We have 3 stores here. Stop this." She's like, "You don't have any stores here. I have 3 stores here. Goodbye." And she yelled at him and told him to get out. And if he didn't turn around and leave, that she was going to call the police on him or her brother. He left. He left quick time and he went back to Sosua. Angelica, she looked at her and said, "Thank you." Rafaela said, "What is your phone number? I want to stay in touch with you." Now, Rafaela accumulated 3 stores just like that. And they were growing big and they're still growing strong. And not only that, she sold the ring, the diamond ring. She sold it. Giving it back to Angelica didn't make sense to her because she still wanted some of the money, but the ring wasn't that enduring to her. She sold the ring and she gave half the money to Angelica for the baby. And Angelica was so happy. Now, Angelica was back with her mom in the campo. The 2 women are in contact. They talk all the time. And then Bob contacted Angelica and said that he wants his baby. He said, "I want my baby." One night when he was drunk, he contacted her and he said, "I want my baby." She said, "What is your baby? Is it a boy or a girl?" He said, "I don't know. I just don't want my baby." And she said, "You know what? I'll bring your baby." Because she was a little vulnerable, you know? And he was like an animal. But she still thought, try it out and see what happens. She went back and it was a nightmare. She didn't stay any more than a week, and she was happy that she didn't stay. So now at the end of the day, all I have to say is she is a lot happier working in the bar that she's working in. Her child is very happy. The money that she received from the diamond ring, that woman, Rafaela, sold it to a gringo, didn't sell it here on the market. So she got a really good price from it in Santiago from a gringo. And she said she gave half. We don't know, but perhaps she did. Maybe she gave more than half. Maybe she gave it all. I don't know. We don't know. But I do sense that she was honest and gave half and gave it to Angelica. And Angelica took that money and put it into buying extension into her home, getting the roof repaired, getting some really nice flushing water, getting hot water. She wants her mom and her daughter to be happy, but she's back in the campo, back in Bayabisa. She's not living in the villa, and she's not living in Sosua. She's living just outside of Maranata and Bayabisa, but she's very, very happy. And there she will live the rest of her days until she meets another man that wants to love and hold her and treat her really good this time. And you know what? Her daughter is happy and she's happy. And I think at the end of the day, that is the main thing. So, you see, sometimes when people are negative and when they don't think twice and they just want to come here and they just want to kind of dump their problems, it's not always cool. Guys and girls, don't dump your problems. I know some of you guys come here, you get scared. You didn't think you were going to have a child here, and you understand where he's coming from. And you're like, yo, who wants a baby when you're in retirement? And I get that, especially if you have a younger woman and stuff like that, and she might want a child. But you know what? Child support is not crazy here as much as you would think it is. And raising a child here is not as expensive as you would think it is. So talk to the woman. Try to understand where she's coming from. See how you can help out with the raising of the child. And see how you can also help the mom. You know, because a happy mother is a happy upbringing for your child. So make sure you share a little bit of the responsibilities. Even if you don't see your child, still send a little bit of money every month. If the child takes $200 a month to take care of here, send $100. $100 is really not a lot. If it is a lot for your expense, then send 25 or 50. But at least send something so the child knows that it is loved and cared for. Because we all know how all of us around the world, if we don't have someone there to say they love us, that we feel should be there, we take it real personally. Sometimes it can be the difference between changing someone's life or destroying someone's life. So make sure you change your child's life for the positive. So guys, hugs and kisses and loves and blesses to you all. Oh my gosh. Make sure you keep safe and keep the faith. Or here, let me say it all right the way I like to say it. Huge hugs, loads of love, big blesses. Keep faithful and no. Keep faith, stay safe. There we go. That's my new saying. Keep faith, stay safe. Because of what's going on right now, of course, with the vehicle. But you guys take care of yourself, and I love you so much. Big blesses.
Every single day